What is happening, fam? Joe of All Vapes coming at you, bringing you the best and the latest and greatest, like I promise, every day, all day, whenever I get the opportunity. You know what I mean? Okay, so it's not as consistent as it could be, but here I still am, gracing all of your presence. Incidentally, if this is your first time joining me, thank you very much. If you're an old favorite, if you're a good friend, follower, fan, etc., kick up your feet, grab your favorite vape, because we're going to do this. Slam on that subscribe button. Don't forget that. See more of the latest and greatest. Okay, we're going to kick that forward and make sure that you get all the latest reviews and discounts and giveaways, all kinds of happy stuff. It's going to be a consistent future from here on out, guys. So, if you didn't already notice, definitely pimping the Ijoy today. Ijoy USA, one of the most innovative companies out there, along with their international, global, just daddy company, which would be Ijoy International. But today we're talking about the Captain RTA. Okay, now I've done the original Captain. You guys have seen that review. Okay, this bad boy, I'm actually absolutely loving this. Great capacity. It's a very smooth draw. Okay, definitely one of my new favorite tanks, but we're talking about the Captain RTA today. Rebuildable tank atomizer, if you want to get specific. But we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of this, and I'm actually going to take you down below to get an in-depth look, because when it comes to an RTA, you really got to get in-depth, okay? We're going to build this, we're going to assemble it, we're going to check it out, and then we're going to try it out in Joe of All Vapes style, you know what I'm saying? So, let's do it. All right, folks, so once again, the Ijoy Captain RTA Cloud Chaser and the best flavor, okay, designed and manufactured by Ijoy. So this bad boy is obviously the RTA version of the newest slide top Captain S version right here. Just going to give you a little glimpse of that with the new push open interface when it comes to refilling the juice, okay, so that's pretty super simple. We're going to bust this guy open and just check her out. Now, first of all, I'm going to read the back flap here. Just going to give you a little bit of a quickie introduction. 25 millimeter in diameter, pretty typical, 3.8 milliliters, innovative postal stick design, all that happy stuff, okay? Sliding top fill, like I said, with the Captain S, replaceable silicone filling part, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is a massive cloud chaser. So typical of an RTA. What we're talking about is complete and total rebuildable awesomeness, okay? And the one thing that I'm gonna say that I have seen from Ijoy is basically every brand new tank that they come out with is not necessarily a different design to be different, but more so a different design for the sake of improving everything that they have come up with so far. And I wanna just say, basically bust out a massive shout out to Ijoy USA for sending me the multicolored pimp tie-dye version here, okay? Really dig. Didn't even ask for that, but hey, you know, a little Joe of All Vapes perk, you know what I mean? So here's what I'm talking about with the sliding top fill. Boom. One-handed, one-thumbed, super simple, okay? This is about as easy as it absolutely gets. The next thing that I want to mention is obviously the drip tip. Now, the composite material that they have working on this guy enables it to basically really lighten up your drag. And I mean that literally. It takes up all the heat from the drag, which is going to take the heat away from your lips. Really cool little addition. And of course, we have the wide open air intake exposures on the bottom, so rear air intake. And we're just going to unscrew this bad boy, get that guy out of the way, and take a look at what we've got going on here. Okay, so nice wide post to it. Unscrew this. It's brand new, guys. What can I say? Okay, it's got a little bit of stickiness to it. Okay, so here's the cool thing. This thing is completely removable. You can completely take it apart. It's got this little rubber gasket going on in here. Basically just kind of keeps everything neat and clean. You can take that out. They actually give you a replaceable one. They give you this one and they give you an additional one. You got this teeny tiny little screw right there. All you got to do is unscrew that, take this thing completely apart if you want to wash it and get very anal with your devices, which I do. And, just close that bad boy out. But if this ever gets really worn out and just kind of funky or nasty over time, take out that little screw, pop this bad boy out, clean it, wash it, insert the next gasket, and you're good to go. Okay, so we're going to stick that aside. And of course, you're going to get your little glass tank sleeve, which you do, of course, get a replaceable one. Boom, just in case you break one. Okay, now let's just pretty much look at what we've got left. So you've got the bottom post, which is connected to the 510 connector. Okay, so power goes through that bad boy. And then you've got basically your retainer sleeve. And then on the inside, you've got your rebuildable deck. So I'm just going to take my handy dandy itty bitty little Phillips head and just kind of pop that bad boy out. Comes out real super simple. Okay, take this guy out. And let's just kind of take a look at what we've got. Now, first of all, here's what I really dig. You got a postless deck. Really like the postless decks. The reason I like the postless decks is because it keeps things a little bit more efficient, keeps things nicely clean. Okay, you've got your side Phillips head screws. Now we're going to take a look at the coils in which we can kind of squeeze into this small little capacity here. It really doesn't look like a large compartment. Now the one thing that I will say about most RTAs, and regardless of the design, I've seen great ones, I've seen good ones, I've seen amazing ones, I've seen big ones and small ones. They pretty much all have the same limitation in my personal experience, a very small space in which to work. So let's get an idea as to the type of coils that they're talking about here, okay? Got my little Ijoy swag bag. The diameter, not real massive. I would say maybe, 20 millimeters, something to that effect. And, you know, the legs, not real super long, but definitely efficient enough. So what I went ahead and did, elapsed time off camera, was cut the length of the legs off on these coils by about 50%. As you can see, here's the difference between the two, okay? This is what they send, this is what I did. And you don't have an extreme amount of depth into the RTA sleeve right here, okay? This isn't real long. So you want to make sure that when you're building the deck, because most of the decks on RTAs are, you know, kind of a fixed capacity, you've still got enough room to put the coil in there, like so, without it touching and interfacing with the bottom portion of the deck, okay? Which this does not do. It's pretty solid, okay? Okay, now we've only got, obviously, the one coil in there. But what I'm going to do at this point is bust out my Coilmaster 521 Mini. Okay, I'm going to screw this bad boy in because I'm kind of curious as to where this is sitting at the moment. Okay, 0.34 ohms. That's actually pretty decent. You know what, to be honest with you, I'm just going to leave the one coil in. Okay, I'm going to pre-burn this bad boy though. See what kind of heat we can get from it. Okay. Okay, so that is a beautiful burn. That is exactly what I wanted to see. Now, coming from obviously mass-marketed coils, pretty damn professional in terms of how it's done. Very decent. As a matter of fact, I'll put the other coil in just to kind of keep this rolling. Okay, so I've got both coils in there, and obviously I gave them a little bit of a burn. Sorry, that was some off-camera action there. I know you guys can sue me about that afterwards, but they're coming in at an even 0.21 ohms. Okay, I'm going to give it a fire up again just to kind of show you where I'm working with there. Now, I'm only working with one 18650, so I'm not getting like the greatest expenditure between the two posts working for these coils. You can see an extremely slow and uneven burn. I'm not an expert when it comes to building coils. Neither am I an expert, obviously, when it comes to mounting them. But I'm going to try and kind of smooth that out and make sure that when I stick it on my mod, we're going to get a nice even burn on this bad boy, okay? Because we want to chuck some clouds, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so now we're going to put some cotton in this bad boy. And just for kicks, I'm actually going to install the cotton that comes with the kit. Now, the majority of us have cotton that we like to use from specific companies or specific brands. Y'all know that I am a big-time fan of the Kendo vape cotton. That's pretty much my gig. But I'm going to try this stuff out because I want to do this completely raw, like usual. and just basically use everything at the capacity in which Ijoy seems to dig what they do. And look at that, magically we've got these things loaded up with some solid cotton. Okay, as you can see, it's probably just a bit of slight overkill. Now I know what you guys are thinking. Okay, those are some massive juice holes going on. Everything is spill out the side. Okay, but the air intake, bottom air intake, guys, bottom flow air intake. So it's definitely not going to foul up anything that we've got going in here as far as the juice is concerned. However, this is just a tinge on the long side. Okay, so we're gonna kind of really cut these guys back, because I'm looking at the space that we've got to work with is not exactly massive. And to give them a little tuck right into where they need to go. Little tuck, okay, a little tuck in there, and just gonna push that bad boy in there. So now what I'm gonna do is reaffix the base. Hey, that's still pretty darn hot. Imagine that. Okay. Put that bad boy back in where it needs to go. And I'm gonna get myself a nice, decent mod. Screw on. Hey, it kind of even matches the box. Check that out, okay? 0.19 ohms is just about where it was before I started kind of tweaking with it, okay? So let's find ourselves some decent juice, something kind of light and airy and fun. A little bit of primage here, a little bit of primage there, a little bit of a burn. A little bit of a burn, okay? And just kind of, and I like to do this. I think this really helps soak up the cotton when you just kind of give everything very short, emphasis on short bursts. See, it just kind of helps it soak in a little bit easier. A lot of people like to pre-soak the cotton before they mess around with RTAs. I really don't. Screw this base right back on. Okay. Keeping everything kind of nice and open. Put the glass sleeve over yonder. Screw the top portion back on. Okay, so we built the RTA deck. Got everything assembled. Got the air intake, bottom airflow open completely with the non-Bernie lip drip tip going on there. Okay, we've got the push open refillable action, beautiful as it is. Now basically what we're waiting on is just to adjust to a perfect wattage for the ohms, and we're still perking at, oh, hang on. Okay, we are still perking at about 0.21, okay, 0.198, 0.189, 0.21, whatever. So we're working at about 2 ohms here, okay? So we can be able to bust this out to probably a pretty decent amount of wattage output. So I'm going to bring the camera back up. We're going to fill this bad boy up and just kind of play around with it and see some good final results for the Ijoy RTA. Okay, folks, so the one thing that I did do was I only filled up the 3.8 milliliter capacity tank up to, just about halfway full. Now, the reason I like to do that is because if anything happens between the time of fillage to the time of usage, it's typically going to happen right after you think everything is completed and put together. You know what I mean? So now let me talk about RTAs just a little bit. And the amount of time that I can talk about that, everything is going to kind of get primed and hopefully the cotton will soak up nicely. The one thing that I have noticed from a lot of RTAs in the past is juice spillage. And juice spillage is a big old pain in the butt. Okay, pain in the patoot. And that can kind of come in two ways. Number one, if it's going to happen, it's going to come out the air intake valve. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, okay? Juice fingers, that residue that you get from the VGA, PG, from the VG and PG. I got my own vocabulary working here, folks. It just kind of makes for an unpleasant experience. One of the reasons why I don't really like RTAs. Now, just because I don't dig RTAs doesn't mean that I don't like them in a sense for what they are. A lot of them are can be really, really super innovative. But basically what you're doing is you're taking the best of both worlds. You're taking a solid sub-ohm tank device and slamming it with a rebuildable atomizer, okay? So Sometimes that can work really well. Sometimes it can not work so really well. But if it's going to happen, it's going to drip out the air intake. And why? Because a lot of it has to do with just the seepage and cause an effect from the heating of the liquid is going to loosen and really slick up the viscosity of whatever juice. Even if you're using a high VG capacity juice, the viscosity is always going to be just real super runny once that bad boy starts to heat up, okay? So first of all, I'm going to check and see where the ohm is that we're at. Okay, we're working with about 70 watts to start out at a 0.2 ohm. I mean, if you can see that on the camera right there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but that's where we're working, okay? So far we're working, everything is kind of clean, okay? So right off the bat, I'm actually working with a little bit of juice spillage. That was one thing that I was kind of afraid of. Now, is this going to knock down the perception of Ijoy devices? Not in my book, okay? Because everything that I've tried from Ijoy so far, I love. Really innovative products. These are definitely no cheap designs, but everything can be improved upon. So this is why I do these raw reviews, guys. Okay, it's got to start and it's got to end somewhere. So speaking from where we started, okay, we built the deck, postless deck, one design that I really dig because the sleeve does not interface metal to metal with the coil, which is going to cause it to short, which means it's going to get a little bit of burn back, if it even burns at all. Burn is my technical little Joe term. Literal burn is what I'm talking about now, okay? Not just firing the coil. I would rather take a ton of spit back on my tongue than a bunch of smoke down my throat, okay, and into my lungs. You definitely don't want that. So we're working between those two factors, plus you've got the juice spillage that I just encountered a little bit of through the air intake valve, okay? So we're gonna give this guy a little dance. We're gonna talk about the possibilities of yada yada and so on and so forth, and just kind of see if we can get the best out of the Ijoy Captain RTA, okay? So 70 watts, like I said, it's working at a standard power capacity on my mod here. So let's see what we got. Okay, so good heat, awesome flavor. A lot of that has to do with the juice. One of my favorite juices here that I'm working with. The drip tip, obviously, like I said, taking away a lot of the heat, so definitely no heat transference. Big, wide open air intake. So far that I burned it up with one hit, I'm not seeing a ton of juice spillage, so that might have just been a little bit of initial action. Okay, so a little bit of drippage going on right there. That tells me just what I was talking about with that viscosity level when you heat up the juice. And of course, with an RTA like this, you've got those openings to where, you know, the cotton goes, it's going to leak through. Now, one of the reasons, like I said, that I only loaded the tank up about 50% of the way was just to give it enough downward pressure, because that's exactly what it's going to do. It's really going to soak into that cotton. But with every fire, it's going to heat up that juice, it's going to loosen up the viscosity, and it's going to go wherever there's an opening. And the opening is right down through the air intake valves. It's unfortunate. It is what it is. But we're going to kind of play around with this just a little bit more. I'm actually going to drop this down, okay, to 65 watts. Okay, so I've got this to 65 watts. We're still working at 0.2 ohms, and I'm going to kind of see where this is going to take us. Much lower on the spitback, much lower on the spitback on that one. Obviously not too hot. I'm not seeing a ton of juice spillage coming out the air intake on this one. Okay, maybe a little bit of residual drippage. That could have been from the last experience though. Obviously with the wattage output down by about 5 watts, you're going to get, you know, just less heat, which is going to cause less viscosity. Hate to get all technical on you like this, folks, but that's kind of the way this stuff works. Okay, so far 65 watts seems to be kind of the sweet spot with this. Now, there may have been other ways that I could have better loaded the deck, maybe a little bit extra cotton, just to kind of close up those little valve holes right there on the build deck that I was showing you guys. But, you know, I mean, you have to have so much of an opening there. Too much cotton, and it's going to close everything up so tight. I don't know if you can see it, but on the lower portion of the tank, you got these little holes. that's where the juice is going to soak up into the cotton. So if you pack it up too tightly, it's not going to soak up. Don't pack it up tight enough, it's going to go through the air intake valve, which obviously it's still doing a little bit. It's going to spill over a little bit, but you have to have the air intake. So what are some design aspects that could improve? Maybe just a little bit of a higher positioning on the opening of the air intake, perhaps. I mean, there's only so much you can do with a comparable RTA design. And I mean, they've got to make it decently so you've got enough space to build your deck, either 1 or 2 coils, with enough space so you can put the cotton in there. And I mean, there's only so much to work with. Like I've said, Ijoy seems to pretty much improve upon every design that they make, so I'm not doubting this as yet. It's got basic, typical downfalls of any RTA that I've experienced, even some sub-ohm tanks that I've experienced, regardless of whether it was Ijoy or not. It will have a little bit of drippage sometimes out of the air intake valve, and a lot of that obviously is still going back to 2 factors, design and viscosity, and that is just coming up from heating up the juice, okay? So that's pretty much the way it is. Now, 65 watts at 0.2 ohms seems to be where, like I said, the sweet spot is for us. Decent amount of cloud production. At this point, I'm thinking that, that's probably about as hot as I want to leave it. I'm a little bit doubty on whether or not I want to fill the juice capacity any higher than about halfway up, because I'm concerned about the downward pressure that the extra liquid is going to cause. But that may cause absolutely nothing at all. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, which I have a tendency to do from time to time. But you know what? I am by no means an expert at either coil building or coil mounting, but I think I'll get the basics down at this point, you know what I mean? Joe of All Vapes has been around for at least a little while. But if any of you guys out there have any comments on how this design could be better built or a better deck build than, you know, yours truly, keep in mind I was working with just what Ijoy sent with the Ijoy Captain RTA. So maybe better aftermarket coils, maybe different type of cotton could be used to prevent a little bit of spillage out of the air intake valve. Who knows, okay? So there's a lot of different aspects that you have to keep in mind when you're working with rebuildable anything, whether it just be a plain dripper or an RTA. It's still the same concept. You've got to make sure that the build is quality to make sure that you're going to have a quality experience. And like I said, I'm no professional at building coils or mounting them, unfortunately, but I do have the basics down up to this point. So any after effect that happens, I'm only going to take 50% credit, maybe not even that much, you know, maybe like 25, okay? I am still humble and I'm still learning. Hey, you're never too old to learn, you know what I'm saying? So far, the Captain, Ijoy Captain RTA is a pretty solid hit. I like the design. I like the coolness. Okay, you've got the push top loader, which I think is one of their most innovative designs. Extremely simple, massively simple. I love the color. The obviously blended color looks really super awesome with my mod. And I'm really thinking that just it really truly does break down to quality coils, quality cotton, and a quality build, okay? That's just one of those things, one of those aspects that you got to wrap your brain around. If you're going to get an RTA, know how to build, know how to mount, okay? So that's pretty much where it's at. So on a scale of 1 to 10 so far, I think I'm going to have to give this guy a solid 7. And I think 7 is a pretty fair way to go with this because there are a couple of drawbacks. Number one, there was the juice escaping through the air intake valve. Doesn't seem like any is escaping at the time. Of course, I haven't burned it up. Lessening on the a little bit of vapor expenditure here, but it is getting down to the bottom of the tank. And it seems that even with those 2 burn-ups at 65 watts, I'm not getting any spillage coming out the air intake valve now, so maybe it just needed a little bit of extra priming time, okay? I'm a big believer in the priming time, but the spitback is still evident. Something I've noticed with every single RTA device that I have ever tried, okay? It's just one of those aspects. I don't know if it's ever gonna go away. I don't know if there is an RTA out there that does not employ a little bit of spitback. It just is the way it is. Maybe a different kind of juice, maybe a different kind of coil, maybe a better mount, maybe better cotton, maybe a better design. Who knows, okay? There's plenty of devices out there and there's plenty of people out there that can probably build a deck better than yours truly. But Like I said, we're going to give this a solid 7. Now, I am going to do a follow-up review on this bad boy and kind of play around with the deck build and the design a little bit more, and when I bring it back, I'm going to show you what I have found after kind of giving this guy a little bit more of a fair shot, and maybe the rating will go up. Unfortunately, it might go down because I'm a completely fair and honest reviewer. But I do definitely want to say thank you so much, Ijoy Global, Ijoy USA, once again for supplying me some of the best, latest, and greatest products out on the market, the vaping scene. Everything that you guys have made so far has impressed the heck out of me, and I hope all you guys out there will give the Ijoy Captain RTA a solid shot. Give it a really good shot, because a lot of you guys out there are probably better coil builders and mounters than me. Okay, so bringing that one to a close, Joe of All Vapes, once again, thank you so much for joining me. This is your eye in that vaping sky, wishing you to always, always stay humble. Love yourselves, spread that love, guys, and keep it eternally, sweetly cloudy. Hey everybody, this is Joe of All Vapes. Thank you for watching. For the best in vape reviews, pound that subscribe button, and don't forget, vaping saves lives.